Hi, it's Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video I'm very pleased to present to you the Ugreen NASync DX4800 Plus. This is a moderately new NAS on the market, which some of you may have seen already, some of you may not. So we're going to go through the steps today, talk about some of the 5 reasons why I think this is an excellent decision. And to be honest with you, there's probably a lot more than 5, but 5 was good for the video thumbnail. I like that. Anyway, let's move on. So this unit has been sent in to us free of charge for review purposes from the people over at Ugreen. They haven't asked us to say anything specific. They've just sent the unit over for review purposes, and they won't be reviewing the footage before it goes live. So there's the disclaimer out of the way, and we'll talk about, first of all, 5 reasons why I think this is a very good solution for those of you who are looking for a NAS device. We'll also talk about reasons why you might want a NAS. We'll also talk about the actual software, how it runs, flexibility, and all that kind of good stuff. This potentially is going to be a very, very long video. I will put some chapters in it, so you can kind of skip forward to whichever ones you want. But for those of you that are new to this and you want to know all about it, then I would strongly suggest you watch the entire video. And of course, as always, if you have any comments or questions after the video, you're more than welcome to put them in the comments section below, or alternatively, head over to our Discord channel and you can ask any questions there. And if you've got any specifics, I'll try to test them out on the NAS for you, if that helps with your purchasing decision. So let's quickly drill down through the 5 reasons, because I guess that's why a lot of you have clicked on the video, because you want to know what my 5 reasons are. So let's head straight into them. So reason number 1 is going to be power and performance. Now this is obviously quite self-explanatory. It is actually a surprisingly powerful unit, despite its price. Now this has got a very, very nice spec. And again, going back to kind of reasons why you might want to buy one, and if you're maybe looking at other NAS brands, you get a lot for your money in terms of power and performance. So starting off, we get the 4 bays on the NAS. Also, there are an additional 2 M.2 bays, which are PCI Express Gen 4x4, which quite often on other NASs, you don't get that. You maybe get Gen 3 or Gen 4, but times 2 or times 1. So potentially a lot more performance from your M.2 drives. When it comes to the 4 bays, all of them are fully removable and actually very easy to use. Putting the drives in, very simple. There's a little push button, open up the rack, put your drive in, squash it together, stick it in, and also they're handily numbered, as you've probably already seen, which actually makes maintenance so much easier if you're taking drives out for cleaning purposes and you're kind of thinking, oh god, which drive goes in where? It's pretty self-explanatory. Also with the storage, at the time of recording this video, this can actually hold up to 112 terabytes of data, which is an absolutely phenomenal amount. Although that figure is kind of like a best case scenario at the time of recording due to the drives available on the market and also what it supports. Depending on your RAID configuration, obviously that may lower. There is actually a RAID configurator on the Ugreen website, which I strongly suggest you check out so you can see what examples of data storage you can have on your device depending on your choices of drive sizes. So in terms of storage, yeah, excellent stuff. When it comes to performance, now the processor is a very interesting one. So this is using the Core Intel 12 Gen Intel Pentium Gold 8505 5-core CPU. Now the 5 cores is a little bit unusual in itself, but it's actually got 6 threads. So what this breaks down is, you've got a single performance core for doing your heavy duty tasks, and that has 2 threads. Then you've got 4 additional efficiency cores, which is one of the reasons why this sips power. So it can just tool along, do its thing, and not get hot and not use a lot of power. An excellent choice in processor for this level of NAS device. Next is the RAM configuration. Now, straight out of the box, this comes with 8 GB of DDR5 RAM on a SODIMM stick, a single one. There's actually 2 memory slots in there, both of which you can populate. And at the time of recording, this will take up to 64 GB of RAM. So if you're planning on installing lots of software, lots of apps, possibly virtual machines, Docker containers, all that kind of stuff, then you've got a lot of RAM to be able to play with, or at least you potentially have. Also, in terms of inbuilt storage, it actually comes with 128 GB of SSD storage flash built into the device. So this is going to be holding your operating system, all the boot up stuff, all that kind of thing. So it comes with that already included, so you can actually get it set up without putting any drives in at all from the very first day. Now, because we have a powerful processor and also we've got a really good backplane in there for your SATA devices, it actually supports multiple forms of RAID. So this will support RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 5, RAID 6 and RAID 10. Now for me personally, as someone who stores a relatively large amount of data and also likes to get the most I can out of my data in terms of storage and not having to spend tons of money on drives, I think RAID 5 for most people is going to be the optimum way to go on this. But obviously, the choice is entirely up to you. If you want to, you can just run it as a JBOD, just a bunch of disks, and it'll be absolutely fine. Next is one of the highlights for me in terms of performance. We have got mega LAN setup on here. So you've got two LAN ports on the back, LAN 1 and LAN 2. LAN 1 will do up to 10 gigabits per second. So for those of you looking at expanding your network performance, it will support up to 10 gigabit Ethernet. And also there is a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port on the back as well. So 2 ports in total. And of course, potentially you can do things like SMB sharing, all that kind of stuff if you wanted to. Choice is entirely up to you. Realistically for me, I've got 2.5 gigabit Ethernet running throughout the house. So this ties in absolutely perfectly, and I can plug my network cable into either one of the ports. They are both backwards compatible with lower standards. Also, when it comes to power and also performance, we've got some pretty good performance even from the USB ports. So on the front, you've got two USB ports, one of which is a Type A, one of which is a Type C. Both of which are 10 gigabit per second, so nice and fast data transfers if you want to plug in a flash drive or something. And also there is a SD card reader, which is also a USB 3 card reader, so you get those nice fast transfer speeds. So for those of you that are possibly into video editing or just take tons and tons of pictures, if you want to easily transfer all of your pictures straight to the NAS, it's very easy to do. Just pop in your SD card, go into the interface and copy your files across. Couldn't be easier. And if that wasn't enough USB ports, if we take a look at the back, you've also got an additional 3 USB ports, one of which is USB Type A, which is a 5 gigabit per second, and also there's 2 USB 2.0 ones. The USB 2.0 ones are going to be very handy for connecting up things such as UPS devices, which actually support software backup. So if your device kind of loses power, it can quickly switch over to your UPS, and yeah, you can configure all that stuff as well, which is absolutely brilliant. Now, obviously, with all this power and all this performance, you're thinking, well, how is it going to keep itself cool? Well, don't worry, there is a really good 140mm fan in the back, which is PWM, so potentially for those of you tinkerers out there, if you want to swap out the fan at some point for something slightly quieter, although realistically you don't need to because it is exceptionally quiet, you can open it up pretty easily, get into it and swap out that fan should you ever need to. The fan itself also incorporates its own built-in magnetic dust filter, so for those of you in slightly more dusty areas, you can just remove the filter, clean it very easily. So gaining access and maintenance is going to be an absolute breeze. So now let's take a look at the next one on my list, and this is obviously one of my favourites, down to price. Now, I am a somewhat thrifty person myself, and perhaps you are as well. Maybe that's why you're looking at this. Pricing on these is excellent. So you get all that performance, but you get a stellar price. Now, this was actually available a little bit cheaper for those of you that were able to on Kickstarter. When this first came out, there was a Kickstarter option and it came out at a ridiculous price, which is what actually spurred my interest in it in the beginning. But unfortunately, it was only available, I think, to Europe and the US at the time. Now it's come over to the UK. I was like, oh yes, thank goodness. And even so, the prices are still excellent and significantly better than some of the competition on the market. And if the price wasn't good enough anyway, as in the MSRP, Ugreen always are doing what seems to be continual special offers. So if you just take a look at some of the links in the video description, either to their own website or perhaps to some of the links we've procured, you can check it out and chances are you're going to find it at a fantastic price. Quite often there's kind of like 50 to 100, maybe even 150 pounds off the MSRP. So do check out the links in case there is an offer on. Next on the list is going to be build quality. So this is number 3. Build quality is quite simple. It is exceptional build quality. The whole thing is pretty much metal, and it comes actually in a very nice kind of gunmetal grey, so it should fit in with most aesthetics if you want to have it perhaps on your desk, next to your PC, maybe you just want to stick it in a living room somewhere, behind the TV or whatever. Whatever you want to do with it, it's going to be absolutely fine. And again, it is basically built like a tank. It's entirely enclosed in metal. Very solid, very heavyweight. It's excellent. The only thing which really isn't metal are the actual disc holders or the disc caddies. Those are plastic, but essentially the rest of it is all metal all the way around. But even with that, it's still quite easy to access. You can get access to the screws on the back, take those out, you can see inside, do your cleaning, your maintenance, all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, build quality is excellent. And also it's just the little features as well. When it comes to the build quality, you've got things like these drive bays, which are easily removable. So just press the button in and you can release the drive trays. Even the drive trays themselves are very, very well made. Little button there, that opens up the slider. Take out your drives, no screws required. Very, very straightforward and simple to do. And even the caddies, even though they're made of plastic, they're still pretty rigid, pretty good. Happy days, I like those a lot. And alternatively, if you want to put smaller drives in, so 2.5-inch drives, They actually do include a screwdriver and screws in the kit, so you can mount those in there should you want to. And also other things when it comes to build quality, even things such as simple as the SD card reader, it's got a really nice satisfying click to it when you insert a drive, so you just know it's firmly in there. That's excellent. The USB ports all feel very, very solid and secure. When it comes to actually gaining access for upgrading, on the bottom you'll notice there are some small rubber feet, and there's also this removable tray, again, which is metal. A couple of screws in there, you can gain access to the M.2 drive bays and also your memory slots. Again, all of those nicely made. It all feels very, very well built indeed. And also going around to the back of the machine, you've got the removable dust filter. Again, it's metal, it's metallic, it's very, very strong. Something which they could have quite easily done in plastic, they've chosen to do in metal. So it's, yeah, very, very solid, very resilient. All the ports feel great. And even little attention to detail, such as things like the included cables for connecting up to the network. These are all Cat7 cables with little plastic bungs over the end, just to keep your cables nice and clean and keep dust and debris out. It's just very, very premium experience when you take it out of the box. Because it's all metal, it isolates noise as well. So even if you buy drives which are a little bit on the more chattery side, it's going to drown that out pretty well. And actually, I've had this on the desk doing some tests and footage, etc., testing, and it's barely audible. It really is. Now let's move on to section number 4. So the fourth of the reasons why you should buy a Ugreen NAS. This is probably one of the favorites for a lot of people, is flexibility. Now obviously in the press there's been a lot of things going on with some other brands. They're starting to lock down the ability to use certain peripherals or certain hardware within your NAS device. Ugreen have basically gone the entire opposite direction, and they've opened up the field completely. So you can choose your own hard disk drives, you can choose your own M.2 drives, you can even choose your own SODIMM RAM. There is a compatibility list on the Ugreen site, which you're more than welcome to check out, but realistically, you kind of don't really need to. It supports pretty much anything you want to throw at it, which is absolutely excellent. So for a lot of people out there which are possibly on another well-known NAS brand and you're maybe looking at alternatives now that these changes are coming into effect, again, Ugreen have gone the entire opposite direction, allowing you essentially to use basically whatever you want. And that doesn't stop at the hardware. Because the bootloader isn't effectively locked, or it doesn't appear to be, you could, if you wanted to, take off the excellent software, and the Ugreen NAS software is excellent, which we'll take a look at later. If you wanted to, you could put something else on here. Now, I'm not recommending you do that because I don't think there's any need to, but I know that there are going to be some people out there that are tinkerers and you love to mess around with these stuff and you want to do your own thing your own way. Well, why not do it with this, with some excellent hardware at an excellent price and have your full flexibility? Again, choice is going to be down to you. So reason number 5 why you should buy a Ugreen NAS, and that is security. Effectively, so whether you want your data security, whether you want your own information secure. Now for a lot of people, if you're like me, you're self-employed and you have to do a tax return and you have to store your tax return for X amount of years on a computer, whatever, you don't really want to send it out to the cloud, do you? Because you just really don't know who is watching. So having a NAS device, you can keep all of your sensitive information on there and have it locked away. If you don't want to have external access across the internet via their gateway, you don't have to. The choice is entirely up to you. So you can have this really locked down for security purposes, or alternatively, you can go the other way altogether and you can open up to friends and family, share your documents, your pictures, your videos, all that kind of stuff. It's very easy to do, and it's extremely secure as well, and it also supports multi-factor authentication, which some of the reviews initially, when this first came out, there wasn't support for it, but now there is multi-factor authentication supported straight out of the gate. So if you do want to go down that route, you're more than welcome to. And here we are, we're at the end, and we're not at the end. There is actually a bonus reason, and actually this might even be the key reason why you might want to get a Ugreen NAS. So this is reason number 6, and that is software. Now the Ugreen software is amazing. It is very, very nice to use. It's very simplified, but very powerful at the same time. Some other brands have got a lot of kind of confusing toggles and switches and things that you have to make sure you get right to make sure that everything works as it should do. But Ugreen have actually looked at it and simplified it in such a way that it actually feels very much like a mobile phone OS. It's just very, very intuitive. And I found myself setting this thing up, adding in applications, setting up shared drives, setting up my RAID configuration. It was all very easy to do, wasn't intimidating in any way, shape or form, which is excellent. That is what you want. You want your device to be very easy to use and very user friendly. And for setting up new user accounts and all that kind of stuff, it's extremely easy to do. And the wealth of options there is a lot of options that you can go through if you want to, but you don't have to, which is the beauty of it. And you don't have to install a whole bunch of applications to get yourself up and running because the key ones are already there. But there is actually an app station as well that you can go into. You can download various apps as well. And also you can install third-party apps as well. Now, obviously, I don't necessarily recommend that. Do check them out before you do that. But if you want to, you can do. And it supports things like Jellyfin, Docker containers, all that kind of stuff. Virtual machines are built in as well. So if you want to run a virtual machine, if there's a piece of software that you want to run on your NAS but doesn't exist on this platform, just run it in a Docker container or in a virtual machine. I think you're going to be very, very happy with the outcome. So I think the Ugreen software itself is basically first class. It really, really is. But what makes it better is the Ugreen NAS app, which you can install on your desktop PC. You can install it on your tablets. You can install it on your mobile phones. Basically anything which will support it. It's a really, really cool app. And when you go into it, it's just everything is there from your NAS. So it's basically like being in front of the web interface, but you can do it on your phone or you can do it on tablets, whatever, PC. I love it on my desktop PC because I can just click on the link for the app, open the app. Some other NAS devices, you have to have this app installed for that, a link for this, a link for that. It's just all in one unit. So you can go in, you can manage your device, you can check out your photos, you can turn on or toggle your AI features if that's your thing. The Photos application is phenomenal. Basically all the apps are really, really good. And if you've used one of the other, I would say, premium brands of NAS before, and you kind of like how that looks and feels, this is very, very similar indeed, albeit a lot more simplified, which I personally prefer. So ultimately it makes it very easy, very straightforward to set up your NAS if you're new to this, or if you've used NAS devices previously, then you're going to find this an absolute walk in the park. It very much is a first-class piece of software. So with all that said, I think it's the time we actually had a look at the interface and take a look at some of the software. It's going to be a very condensed version. I'm not going to go through the whole lot because this video is probably way too long already. So we'll just take a look at some of the key things or things which have interested me and potentially might also interest you. Okay, so let's take a look at the Ugreen NAS operating system. So there's various ways you can access it. You can access it from a web browser. So you can go into Chrome, you can do it that way from the IP address, etc., etc. Or alternatively, you can install the Ugreen NAS app, which I've already got installed here. So let's do it that way because I find this to be a much nicer way of doing it. You can do this both on your desktop PC, or you can do it on your mobile phones, etc. And it kind of looks very similar, or has the same features and functionality pretty much. So this is the kind of the main setup. Normally you'd have a login screen, but I've set it to automatically log in to prevent all of that stuff showing on the screen, and also from having to type in your password because it's it's a secure app, so it's absolutely fine. So this is the application. I'm going to full screen this, so you obviously don't get confused with the apps on the side there. So now we've got it full screened on our desktop computer, and you've got the options here for many different things. So you've got all of your programs and applications here on the left hand side, so very much like a Windows interface. At the top here you've got return to desktop and also my apps. So if you click on my apps, it shows you all of your currently installed applications. You can just directly click on them. Obviously if you had pages and pages of them, you can just type in search to find your specific one. To get away from here, just click anywhere other than an app and it will go back to your desktop. Over on this far side, so very familiar for Windows users, so you've got the close button, the minimize, maximize, so you can click on that to resize it. You've also got minimize so you can go back to your desktop, so you can carry on working on other things, then you click on the app when you want to go back in. You've got your user information there, so you click on me, you see your user account. You can also set zoom preferences for the desktop, personal setting, client version preferences there. You've also got options to reboot, shut down or log out of the NAS device itself. So if you close shut down, it won't just shut down the app, it will close the entire NAS safely, so that's absolutely fine. You've also got a search function. You've also got notification center, so you can look at notifications which have come in, telling you about your storage, etc., or any system information. Then you've got your task center, so you can see what is going on in the task center. So uploads, downloads, files, others, nothing going on here, so it's absolutely fine. Also, you've got this section here, which is your task manager. So it tells you what is going on, overview of the system. You've got individual settings for CPU, the integrated GPU, if it's transcoding or something like that. You also got memory usage, your network usage, your hard disk usage, and also your volume usage on a per volume basis. Also, you can check out the services and processes. So if you want to perhaps start or stop something which is running, so say for instance music's running, you can click on disable or restart or do whatever you want to. That is pretty much it. You've got processors, etc, etc. So pretty kind of run-of-the-mill stuff. So that's the general layout. If you right click, you don't get anything at all. So let's go through some of the basics to begin with. So first of all, you've got files. So that is obviously going to be all the files which are stored on your NAS device. By default, it'll go into your personal file, depending who you're logged in as. So if you're logged in as yourself, great. If you log in as another user, you'll see different icons and all that kind of stuff on the screen. So at the moment, I've got 3 main folders which I use. So backups for backing up my PCs. Got my music folder for shared music, and also photos. So if you go into photos, you can see I've got my mobile phone backup there, and also my main photo library. This is just for checking out files, basically like Windows Explorer, and you can also look at shared folders. So we've got shared folders for all these ones as well, and also go to your user folder. So we've got 2 folders in there, one for me, one for Kath. So if you want to, we can go into our personal file. You're looking just another way of getting to it. You can also empty your recycle bins, all that kind of stuff. So that's the basic files app. Then you've got things like your control panel. So you go into the control panel, you've got all your main settings for your NAS here. So user management, so if you want to add users, your file services, you can turn on SMB and FTP, NTFS, rsync, etc. All those advanced settings. I'm not going to go into too much depth on that, but yeah, you've got various settings you can go through, your user management. You can add users, create users, device connections, etc. You can also set up custom device name, so you can find it on the network, and also for when you go through the remote access and for the actual portal. So you go into the portal, you can change settings there, like backgrounds and the web ports, etc., and HTTP, redirects, all that kind of stuff. So again, all the usual things, hardware power, you can turn the buzzers on and off, you can change your fan profile, you can turn off the LED indicators off the front, power management, etc. General sort of stuff you'd expect from a PC or a NAS. Security you can go into and set up your security settings, indexing, and also you've got the option for updating and restoring. So you can do updates. You can also back up your NAS, the actual configuration of it, either to a web-based cloud, or you can do it locally to a file, and also you can do restoration as well. Restore and reset, so you can reset the network settings if you mess them up, and also you can reset the entire device to the factory defaults should you wish to. Obviously it's red because you don't really want to do that, but maybe you do. Yeah, so that is essentially it. So yeah, you got your control panel there, you've got storage, so you can go to storage, it'll tell you about your storage devices installed. So currently I've got 4 Western Digital drives installed, plus I've got a small M.2 drive for a cache. So that is for a read cache, not a write cache. If you want to do read and write cache, you need to have 2 drives, one for read, one for write. You can go in there and set up all your things, look at your storage, see what's going on. Basically tells you what's going on, hard disk temperatures, etc. And also if you've got external storage, you can access it through there, and also the SD card will show up in there as well. So that's pretty much it for storage. The App Center, so various apps which are available. So you've got a BitTorrent client, File Version Explorer, Office Online, Control My Security, etc. So quite a few of these I've got installed already. Docker you can install as well if you want to, so you can install your Docker applications, and also Jellyfin if you want to install that for media purposes. Home Assistant is there as well. You can install a web browser, so you can actually use this as a kind of a full-on PC if you want to. So you can use Firefox as a web browser. Sync and backup, theater, yeah, you get the general idea. So there is it. Also virtual machine if you want to install a virtual machine. So yeah, again, pretty straightforward stuff. You can install third-party apps, not entirely recommended, but potentially you can do. Log files, you've got a support section, so if there's anything you don't understand, you can go into support. Game Task Manager, which was basically what we've got up here. Universal Search, so if you want to search for anything on the NAS at all, it's in Universal Search. We've also got Sync and Backup, so if you want to back up your desktop PCs or laptops or phones or whatever, you can go ahead and set up a synchronization or a backup. You can do restoring and all that kind of stuff as well. So for backing up desktop PCs, whether it be for files, you can do syncs, create a new sync. You can synchronize this computer or synchronize to another NAS, depending on your configuration and what you want to do. Then you've got things like the music applications. So you set up a library, you've got folders, albums, all that kind of usual stuff that you'd expect from a music library. I'm not going to go to photos, I'm going to do that one last because that's the one I've got set up the most at the moment. Theatre, so again, you can allow that to access your network, etc. And you've got your shared videos and all that kind of stuff. So again, usual type thing for sharing videos. Cloud drives, you can synchronize with cloud drives like OneDrive and all sorts. Security, you can go into that and you can update your antivirus. It hasn't got antivirus, it runs on here, and anti-malware. So you've got your real-time protection, which is enabled. And I've had this turned off for a couple of days, so it hasn't scanned for a couple of days, but you can configure it. So scheduled scan, I've got mine to scan at 5 AM every morning. So that way it's all ready when I come to use it in the morning, if I get up early. You also got your scan records, logs, etc., etc. Download, so if you are downloading things, you can use the downloads folder and just pasting things in there. Also, you've got your virtual machine, so you can go into there, you can create a new VM, so you can import virtual machines, or you can create a machine manually. So if you want to put like an old Windows 95 on here for a bit of retro gaming, you can do. The options are essentially going to be only limited by your storage space and also the amount of RAM you have physically installed. But for some older virtual machines, it's going to be absolutely fine. Or if you just want to create a small Linux distribution or, I don't know, anything, you choose it. Virtualization is supported straight out of the box. So now we're going to take a look at photos in a little bit more depth, because this is the one that actually a lot of people I think are going to use a NAS for. So this is the kind of the main Photos app. So this is my personal library. You can have shared libraries and personal libraries. You've also got your albums there. So it'll pick up things like recently added images. You can get it to find people. So it'll use AI to recognize people's faces and put their folders in. And if you upload a picture, it will then add it to the people. You also got locations, so you can do it location based as well. So if your pictures have metadata, which includes locations, you can do that. Also, it'll do a separate one for videos and also object recognition. So that's all pretty cool. And also in the tools section, you've got searching for similar duplicate photos, friend upload management. So obviously people can upload to your NAS should you wish to, and also sharing management and also custom learning. Now custom learning is actually quite an interesting one, because if there is a particular type of image which you regularly import and you want it to go into a specific folder or to be called something, you can actually train the AI to recognize a kind of a specific type of image. So you can select a bunch of images, and based on those images, it will then in future recognize that as a specific picture, and it will put it in a certain area. Again, you don't necessarily have to mess around with all that stuff. The choice is yours. You don't have to use any of the AI stuff. If you go into the settings for the Photos app, so you've got your personal libraries, you can have your personal section, you can index them all. In the general setting, you can choose about duplicate files, what it does with them, whether it asks you or whether it moves them, etc. Yep, you can do all that stuff. The AI settings here, so you've got options for different models as well. So you've got people recognition, and you can base that on a certain amount of pictures. So if there's more pictures, so if you say 2 photos, it's going to be possibly slightly less accurate, but if you've only got a couple of pictures of someone on your system, then you might want to do that. You can also apply it to just your personal library, or you can apply it kind of across the board. So I do it just to my particular personal library rather than the shared one. Also, you've got text recognition. So that's quite handy. So again, for an example, if it says like hotel, like it says here, it will recognize the fact that it's a hotel, and it will put it into an appropriate place on your shared folders or your personal folders. So that's pretty cool. You also got similar duplicates as well, and scene and object recognition, the kind of thing that you normally see in Google Photos, to be completely honest with you. So it's a very similar sort of thing, but you do have all the control. So if you don't want to have it, so like pet recognition, that is applied, and it will actually like recognize specific breeds and things like bulldog or Shih Tzu, British short hair, etc., or types of cats, whatever, types of birds. So that can be quite handy if you're a bird watcher maybe. And also you've got options there to delete the model, or you can recognize your photos again. So if it's not really picking up some of the things you think it should do, you can just get it to rescan them, which is excellent. Doesn't take very long to do either. You've got automatic recognition of sensitive content. So that's actually quite handy. So for me personally, I've actually set it so that some of my pictures are automatically blurred in case I show them here on today's video, such as things which contain serial numbers, addresses, all that kind of stuff. So you can configure that as well, which is pretty awesome. And again, if you want to, you can kind of get rid of that. It's actually potentially sensitive content. It says there download, but it is actually part of one of the other AI settings. So there is a little bit of an overlap on some of these. So you may not want to install all of them. You may want to install just one of them. Again, the model training package, if you don't want that. I've already got it installed as part of one of the other ones. So I think it's in the people recognition maybe, or objects, I'm not too sure. The AI stuff is a little bit confusing, I'll be honest with you. That is the only thing on here which I think they've probably gone a little bit too far into, and there should be just like maybe one application or one library and you can just tick which things you want it to do. But anyway, it still works pretty well. So if we go back into our photos here, you can type in a search. So let's say, let's try sky. Sky's a pretty obvious one. So you get the options there. So you either got the AI image recognition or scenarios, because we've also included scenarios, or we can choose photos or text with the word sky in it. So that's pretty handy. You can choose which one. So rather than just like finding everything with sky, you can break it down. If you press enter, it'll do all three of those. If you choose one specific one, it'll do one. So let's do the AI one, and it will now quickly scan through the entire library, which is a good few thousand photos accumulated over the years. And as you can see, it's basically put a bunch of sky in there, which is kind of what we asked for. It's put some other things in here which I don't think they are quite sky related, but I guess that's part of the model kind of learning. But essentially, yeah, it kind of does what it says on the tin. Again, if you go back to other things you can search for, let's try cat. So again, you've got different types there. So you've got the general AI one, which is turned on, so for image recognition, so kind of just cats. Or alternatively, you can search for an orange cat, which we have a couple of orange cats. Also, you've got the option for various other types of cats, and yeah, some bizarre stuff on there, but it is quite useful, especially for kind of putting things together. And also in this, you can play videos as well. So here's some videos that I actually shot for this video, which are stored on the NAS for when I'm ready to edit them. So you can play them back on there should you wish to, use them to store, whatever. Choice yours. I wonder if I can search for Ugreen and it would bring up itself. Who knows? But anyway, yeah, so you've got things like serial numbers, you can categorize things. Essentially, you can do what you like. It's your NAS, you can put on there what you want. So I've got pictures of PCs which I've sold, etc. You get the general idea. So that is the Photos app. There's obviously going to be a lot which goes on with that, and actually it's going to improve over time, and as things do, the AI gets better and better, so it will become better. Again, the only thing I would say is a slight negative is the App Center is a little bit on the sparse side, but actually I see that as a positive, because if you go to some other brands, I'm not naming any names, but you go in and there's like about 7 or 8 apps for each thing, whereas realistically these days with things like Docker and VM, you don't need all these apps. All you need is the ability to run kind of anything you want to, either virtually or as a Docker container, and you're pretty much good to go. And of course, when you're done, you can choose either to log out if you want to. So if we log out now, it'll go back and it'll just ask you local account login. So this is the first screen you get, and you've got the IP address, local IP. You can also put in your kind of global IP or your external IP if you're accessing it through the portal, usernames, passwords, etc., etc. Yeah, it's a pretty straightforward thing to do. It works very well. I've got very, very little to complain about here. So there you go, there is a look at the Ugreen NASync DX4800 Plus. I've got to be honest with you, I'm very, very impressed with this. It's, again, part of the 5 reasons: the price, performance, the build quality, the software, the ease of use. Yeah, it's great. It really is great. And it's at a fantastic price. I am a user of other NASs, and I'm struggling to find a reason not to switch over to this full time. I really am. It covers kind of all the bases. As long as Ugreen can maintain the pricing levels that they're doing and giving you the quality they are, and obviously keep the software updated, I think they're onto an absolute winner here. I really do think that. And also, it's very quiet. At the moment, as you see, we've just been using it there. It's active, it's running, the fan is running on the back. You can just about hear, take the filter off. You can just about hear it. There's a very gentle hum coming from it, but overall, the metal does shield it also. If you do want to use this and put it on your desktop, so you can make use of things like the SD card reader and the USB port so you get quick access to your data, you can do. Or if you just want to put it maybe in a bedroom, in a closet or something, it's going to be absolutely fine because it does have a very good cooling solution. It's very quiet, so it's not going to keep you up at night. So yeah, it's very flexible in that regard. Anyway, I think that's going to pretty much wrap this video up. Hopefully you've enjoyed it, and hopefully I've covered some of the things which are questions that you may have yourselves. Again, if you are considering these and you want some some personal time with me to answer some questions, feel free to let me know in the comment section. I'll be happy to answer questions there. If they're a little bit more in depth and I need to ask you questions, it might be better to head over to our Discord. That will be linked in the video description as well. You can ask however many questions you want and I'll give you my honest answers. Yeah, that's what we're about here. We're about saving money and making sensible buying decisions. And I think in terms of Ugreen NAS, it kind of encapsulates what this channel is about. Anyway, that's going to wrap this one up. I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.